My name is Ellen, and I am 59 years old. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I would catch my own daughter stealing from me. But there I stood in the middle of First National Bank watching Amanda and her husband Tyler huddled at the teller window, greedily counting what I soon realized were stacks of my money. The teller handed Tyler another bundle of 20s, and I watched his fingers eagerly rifle through them while Amanda nervously scanned the lobby. My heart stopped when her eyes met mine across the room. Before I continue this shocking story, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Take a moment to comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family betrayal, finding justice, and reclaiming your power when those closest to you break your trust. I raised Amanda entirely on my own after my husband Jack died in a workplace accident when she was just 5 years old. Overnight, I went from being a part-time teacher with a supportive husband to a widow scrambling to provide for my daughter. The life insurance barely covered the funeral expenses and paying off our modest car. I was suddenly alone with a grieving child, a mortgage, and not nearly enough income. Those early years were a blur of exhaustion. I would teach elementary school from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, rush to pick up Amanda from the after-school program, make her dinner, help with homework, tuck her in, and then head out to my second job as a bookkeeper for a local plumbing company. My neighbor Sarah would sit in my living room while Amanda slept grading her own papers. She was another teacher who understood my struggle. "Ellen, you need to take a day off," Sarah would tell me when I came home at 11 at night, my eyes bloodshot from staring at ledgers and receipts. "I will. When Amanda goes to college," I would joke, though it was not really a joke. I still remember the day I started my dedicated savings account. Amanda was 7 and had tearfully asked why we could not go to Disney World like her friend Bethany's family. I sat her down at our kitchen table. "Sweetie, right now, Mommy has to make choices about our money. We can have a nice place to live, food in the refrigerator, and your dance classes, but big trips like Disney have to wait." That night, I opened an envelope and put in $20 writing Amanda's future on the front. Every week, no matter how tight things were, I added to that envelope. Sometimes it was only $5 scraped together from skipping my own lunch or walking to work instead of driving to save gas. When the envelope grew thick, I opened a savings account. As Amanda grew older, my financial discipline became even more important. I wanted her to have opportunities I never had. By the time she was in high school, I had worked my way up to head of the elementary school's English department, which came with a small salary increase. I still kept my bookkeeping job 3 nights a week. Every raise, every tax refund, every small windfall went straight into savings. Amanda was a bright, sweet child who gradually transformed into a somewhat entitled teenager. Looking back, I see now I might have overcompensated for her fatherless childhood by rarely saying no when I could find any way to say yes. "Mom, everyone has the new phone," she would say, and somehow I would find a way to get it for her, even if it meant I wore the same winter coat for another season. "Mom, prom dresses cost more than you think." And I would dip into my personal spending money to make sure she had something special. I told myself it was worth it to see her smile, to give her the confidence of fitting in, to make sure she never felt disadvantaged, because she did not have a father. Now I wonder if I was laying the groundwork for disaster. Amanda met Tyler during her junior year at State University. I was paying her tuition with a combination of my savings, some small scholarships she had earned, and student loans in her name that I secretly planned to help her pay off after graduation. When she brought Tyler home for Thanksgiving, I noticed immediately how his eyes took inventory of our modest house. "Your mom is a teacher, cool," he said, but something in his tone made me uneasy. "Teachers should get paid way more. This place is cozy." Tyler was studying business management and spoke constantly about the fortune he planned to make. He had a charming smile and could be incredibly attentive when he wanted something, but I noticed how he interrupted Amanda and made decisions for her. Still, she was clearly smitten. "Mom, he comes from money," she whispered to me while doing dishes after that first dinner. "His parents have a vacation home in the Hamptons." "Having money and making money are different things, honey," I replied carefully, "and neither one necessarily makes someone a good partner." But my concerns fell on deaf ears. By Amanda's senior year, they were inseparable. Tyler graduated and quickly landed what he described as a high-potential job at a financial services company. When Amanda finished her degree in communications the following year, they announced their engagement. I put on a happy face and spent far too much of my savings on a wedding 3 years ago, wanting her day to be special. I hoped my reservations about Tyler were just an overprotective mother's worry. I really did. After 34 years of teaching children to read and write and 32 years of balancing books for Henderson Plumbing Supply, I finally retired at 58. My savings had grown to $325,000. Not a fortune, but enough for a modest but dignified retirement if I was careful. "Mom, you should be proud," Amanda said when I showed her the statement from my financial advisor. "That is a lot of money for someone who was a teacher." There was something in her voice, surprise perhaps, or calculation. I should have recognized it then. I had a simple plan for retirement stay in my paid-off house, travel a little to see the national parks I had always wanted to visit, perhaps volunteer teaching English as a second language, and have enough set aside for medical expenses as I aged. I was looking forward to reading all the books I had been too busy to enjoy, to gardening in daylight, instead of after work, to finally having time to breathe. The shift in Amanda and Tyler's behavior was subtle at first. They began to visit more often, which initially delighted me, but their conversations increasingly turned to my finances. "Mom, have you updated your will recently?" Amanda asked over Sunday dinner about 6 months into my retirement. "You should really consider long-term care insurance," Tyler added, not looking up from his phone where he was apparently researching prices immediately. "The costs can be devastating." Their sudden concern might have seemed thoughtful, if not for the hungry look that passed between them. Still, I told myself I was being unfair. They were just being practical. When they suggested I sell my house and move in with them to save money, alarm bells finally went off in my head. "You could rent out your house for income," Tyler suggested. "We have that big spare bedroom just sitting empty." "That is very thoughtful," I replied carefully. "But I love my home and my independence, and you two newlyweds do not need a mother-in-law underfoot." Tyler's smile tightened. "Just trying to help Ellen. That house is too big for one person anyway." What I did not mention was that I had seen their house with its enormous television luxury furniture they were still paying off, and Tyler's brand new sports car in the garage. Their lifestyle worried me. Amanda had a decent job in marketing, but I suspected they were living beyond their means. Tyler's high-potential job seemed to involve a lot of drawn-out lunches and networking events, but I rarely heard about actual work or accomplishments. About 2 years ago, I had a health scare. Nothing serious in the end, just some tests that came back negative, but it prompted Amanda to insist on having access to my accounts. "What if you had been really sick, Mom? I would need to handle your bills and medical expenses." It made practical sense, so I added her as an authorized user on my checking account and gave her online access to view my savings account. Just in case, I told her, never imagining what would happen. Looking back now, I see how their questions intensified after gaining that access. I also noticed they stopped talking about Tyler's job. When I asked directly, Amanda would quickly change the subject or give vague answers about restructuring and new opportunities. They postponed the vacation they had been planning, and Amanda began declining lunches with me, saying they were budgeting. I should have realized something was wrong. A mother knows her child, and Amanda's bright laughter had an increasingly brittle quality. She lost weight and developed a nervous habit of checking her phone constantly, when we were together. Last spring, I noticed some discrepancies in my bank statements, small amounts missing from my checking account. $50 here, $100 there. I called the bank assuming there had been an error or perhaps even identity theft. "Everything looks correct according to our records, Mrs. Madison," the bank representative told me. "Those withdrawals were made with your debit card at the ATM on Maple Street." I had not used that particular ATM in months. A sick feeling began to grow in my stomach, but I pushed it away. There must be some explanation that did not involve my daughter. Maybe I was becoming forgetful. Maybe the bank had made a mistake despite their assurances otherwise. I did not want to believe what my heart already knew. It was a Tuesday morning in April, unseasonably warm and sunny. I had a routine doctor's appointment scheduled and afterward decided to stop by my bank's downtown branch to order new checks. My usual branch was closer to home, but I was already downtown and thought I would save myself a trip. The bank was busy with a line of customers snaking from the teller windows. As I took my place at the end of the line, something caught my attention. A familiar laugh, slightly too loud, tinged with nervousness. I looked toward the sound and froze. There at the far teller window stood Amanda and Tyler, their backs to me. I would know my daughter anywhere, her honey blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, the same way she had worn it since high school. Tyler was leaning casually against the counter, one hand in the pocket of his expensive-looking slacks. My first thought was innocent enough. What a coincidence, perhaps I could treat them to lunch after our respective errands. But then I realized this branch was at least 20 miles from their home. Why would they come all the way downtown to do banking? Something kept me from calling out. Some instinct I cannot explain. Instead, I stepped out of line and moved behind a large potted plant, watching. The teller was counting out cash, large stacks of it, more cash than most people would withdraw for normal purposes. I watched my heart suddenly pounding as Tyler eagerly reached for the money. "Can you count it again?" he asked the teller, not bothering to keep his voice down. "Just want to make sure it is all there." The teller, a young man with a patient expression, began recounting the bills. "That is $50,000, sir, as requested." $50,000. My mind raced. Tyler and Amanda did not have that kind of money. Tyler had lost his job 6 months ago, a fact Amanda had reluctantly admitted after I pressed her about their canceled summer plans. "It is just a temporary setback," she had assured me. "He has some promising interviews." As the teller finished counting, I heard Tyler say something that made my blood run cold. "This is great, and remember what I said, if we take it in smaller amounts over time, she will never notice. We will come back next week for another withdrawal." Amanda nodded but looked uncomfortable. "Let's just go, Tyler," she murmured, glancing around the bank. That was when her eyes met mine. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. She grabbed Tyler's arm, her fingers digging into his sleeve. He looked up annoyed at the interruption, then followed her gaze across the lobby to where I stood, no longer hidden by the plant. For a moment, none of us moved, a terrible tableau of betrayal, frozen in time. Then I walked forward, my legs somehow carrying me despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. The bank seemed suddenly silent, though logically I know the normal business continued around us. In my ears was only the rush of blood and betrayal. I stopped directly in front of them. Tyler had hastily stuffed the cash into a manila envelope. My cash, my decades of extra shifts and sacrificed vacations, my security for old age. "What exactly are you doing with my money?" I asked, my voice remarkably steady, despite the trembling in my hands. Amanda's mouth opened and closed without sound. It was Tyler who recovered first, summoning his practiced charm. "Ellen, what a surprise." He stepped slightly in front of Amanda, as if to shield her. "We were just handling some financial matters. Amanda mentioned you had asked her to make a withdrawal for you." The lie was so blatant, so ridiculous given what I had overheard, that for a second I could only stare at him. Then I turned to my daughter. Is that true? Amanda, did I ask you to withdraw $50,000 from my savings account without telling me? Her eyes filled with tears. Mom, I can explain. We were going to pay it back. It is just a loan until Tyler's new business takes off. A loan. Without asking me. That is not a loan, Amanda. That is theft. The words cut through the air between us, harsh but true. Tyler's friendly facade cracked. You have plenty of money you are not using, he said, his voice low and suddenly threatening. Amanda deserves some of it after all she has done for you. A middle-aged woman in line behind us gasped audibly. Several other customers were now watching our confrontation with unconcealed interest. Done for me, I repeated, anger finally breaking through my shock. What exactly has she done for me that justifies stealing my retirement savings? The bank manager, alerted by the teller to our increasingly heated exchange, approached with a concerned expression. Is everything all right here? Perhaps we should continue this conversation in my office. No, everything is not all right, I said clearly. I have just caught my daughter and her husband attempting to steal $50,000 from my account, and based on what I overheard, this is not the first time. The manager's professional smile vanished. Please come with me, all of you. As we followed him to a glass-walled office at the back of the bank, Tyler attempted to leave, claiming a sudden appointment. The manager stopped him with a raised hand. Sir, I strongly suggest you join us to resolve this matter, or I will be forced to contact bank security and possibly the authorities. Tyler's face darkened, but he followed us into the office, the envelope of cash still clutched in his hand. Inside the manager's office, the full extent of the betrayal unfolded like a nightmare. At my insistence, the manager pulled up all my account records for the past year. As you can see, Mrs. Madison, there have been multiple large withdrawals from your savings account over the past 6 months, he explained, turning his monitor so I could see the screen. All authorized using your account credentials. I stared at the numbers, each one a knife twist. 3 withdrawals of $15,000. 2 of $10,000. Several smaller amounts ranging from $1 to $5,000. In total, nearly $78,000 had vanished, and today they had been in the process of taking $50,000 more. I did not authorize any of these withdrawals, I said, my voice shaking. The system shows they were processed using your online banking credentials, the manager replied carefully. The larger transactions were done in person with ID verified. I turned to Amanda, who was quietly sobbing into a tissue. How could you? We needed it, Tyler interjected before Amanda could speak. My business venture required startup capital. Banks would not loan to us because of some minor credit issues. Minor credit issues, I repeated. What does that mean? Amanda finally looked up. Her makeup was streaked down her face, her eyes red and swollen. Tyler lost his job last year, Mom. Not 6 months ago, like I told you. And we have credit card debt. A lot of it. The house is underwater on the mortgage because we took out a second loan for Tyler's business idea. What business idea? I asked, realizing how little I actually knew about their financial situation. Real estate investment, Tyler said defensively. High-end properties. It is a guaranteed return, but it requires significant initial investment. The bank manager's expression told me everything I needed to know about the legitimacy of this investment opportunity. So you decided to fund this by stealing from me without even asking if I would help you? The hurt in my voice was palpable. We knew you would say no, Tyler replied coldly. You are always so cautious with money. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That is not true. Amanda broke in, suddenly animated. That is what you told me, Tyler, but there is more. She turned to me, her expression desperate. Mom, he has a gambling problem. The business is real, but most of the money went to pay off bookies. I did not know at first. When I found out, he convinced me we could fix it without anyone knowing if we just had more capital to invest and win it back. Tyler's face contorted with rage. Shut up, Amanda. That is private. Nothing about this is private anymore, I said, a cold clarity washing over me. You stole my life savings, my retirement security. I turned to the bank manager. I want to press charges. What, Mom? No. Amanda reached for my hand, but I pulled away. You cannot be serious, Tyler scoffed. This is a family matter. We will pay you back. With what money? I asked simply. The money you gambled away, the money from your failing business, the money from your maxed-out credit cards. The bank manager cleared his throat. Mrs. Madison, are you certain you want to pursue this legally? Perhaps we could work out a repayment plan within the family. I looked at my daughter's tear-stained face at her husband's now panicked expression. The decades of work, of sacrifice, of planning for a secure future, all betrayed by the person I loved most in the world. Yes, I said firmly. Call the police. The next hour passed in a surreal blur. The bank manager contacted the authorities while placing a freeze on all my accounts. Tyler attempted to leave twice, only to be stopped by bank security who had been posted outside the office door. Amanda alternated between sobbing apologies and angry accusations that I was overreacting. When the police arrived, 2 officers in crisp uniforms, they took statements from everyone involved. The manager provided transaction records and explained that the bank had security footage of each in-person withdrawal. We will need to review all the footage, one officer explained, but based on the information provided, this appears to be a clear case of financial exploitation. Exploitation. Tyler laughed harshly. She is Amanda's mother. The money would have been hers eventually anyway. The officer gave him a cold look. That is not how inheritance works, sir, and financial exploitation of individuals over 55 carries enhanced penalties in this state. It was only then that the reality of their situation seemed to dawn on Tyler. His arrogant demeanor cracked, revealing the desperation beneath. This is ridiculous, he stammered. We were borrowing the money. Family helps family. Borrowing without permission or knowledge is stealing, the second officer stated flatly. You will both need to come down to the station to make formal statements. As the officers prepared to escort them out, Amanda made one last tearful plea. Mom, please do not do this. We can work it out. I am your daughter. I looked at her, this child I had sacrificed everything for, and felt my heart breaking all over again. Yes, you are my daughter, which makes this betrayal so much worse. They were led away, not in handcuffs but clearly in custody. The envelope of cash was logged as evidence. The bank manager assured me they would investigate how this could have happened, despite their security protocols. I drove home in a daze, the world tilting on its axis. When I arrived at my empty house, I sat in my car for nearly an hour, unable to make myself go inside and face the new reality of my life. My phone rang repeatedly. Amanda's friends, my colleagues. Finally, a call from a number I did not recognize. It was a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit explaining the next steps in the case. Mrs. Madison, I understand how difficult this must be for you, he said kindly. Unfortunately, we see cases like this far too often. Elder financial abuse is one of the fastest-growing crimes in the country, and family members are the most common perpetrators. I am not elderly, I said automatically, though I knew that was not the point. The law recognizes that financial exploitation can begin before what we traditionally consider elderly, he explained. That is why there are enhanced protections for those over 55. Your daughter and son-in-law are facing serious charges. After hanging up, I called Patricia, a friend who practiced family law, and explained the situation through tears I could no longer hold back. Ellen, I am so sorry, she said. But you absolutely did the right thing by reporting it. Come to my office tomorrow morning. We need to make sure you are protected going forward. As evening fell, my phone rang one more time. Amanda calling from the police station, her voice small and broken. "Mom, please help me. I do not know what to do." And despite everything, my heart still ached for my child. The following day, I agreed to meet Amanda alone at the police station. Tyler had been held overnight due to an outstanding warrant discovered during processing something related to unpaid gambling debts. This revelation only confirmed how little I truly knew about the man my daughter had married. The visitor's room was stark and uninviting, with hard plastic chairs and a table bolted to the floor. When Amanda was brought in, I barely recognized her. Gone was her usual carefully applied makeup and stylish clothing. Instead, she wore the same wrinkled outfit from yesterday, her hair limp around her pale face. "Mom," she whispered, reaching across the table for my hands. I let her take them, noticing how cold her fingers felt against mine. "Thank you for coming." "I need to understand Amanda," I said quietly. "I need to know how this happened." For the first time since the bank, she looked directly into my eyes without flinching. "It started small. Tyler lost his job 14 months ago, but he kept pretending to go to work. He would dress in his suit each morning, take the car, and I do not know where he went. By the time I found out, we were 3 months behind on the mortgage." She took a shaky breath before continuing. "He convinced me not to tell you, said it would work out. Then I discovered the gambling. Thousands of dollars on sports betting, online poker. When I confronted him, he broke down, promised to get help. But he did not," I prompted when she fell silent. "No. Instead, he came up with the real estate investment plan, said it was guaranteed money. We just needed capital." Her voice became smaller. "That was when he suggested borrowing from your accounts. Just temporarily," he said. "Borrowing without asking is stealing, Amanda." I know that now." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "But he made it sound reasonable. Said you had all this money just sitting there, money you would never spend in your lifetime. That you would want to help us if you understood the opportunity. And you believed that I would want you to take my retirement savings for a gambling addict's get-rich-quick scheme." She flinched at my harsh tone. He said you were being selfish, that parents are supposed to help their children, that you had more than enough and would die someday anyway, and then it would all be mine. So what was the difference?" The callousness of the statement stole my breath. "And you agreed with that assessment of me after everything I have done for you?" "No, I mean not at first. But Tyler can be very persuasive. He kept saying it over and over, and I was so scared about losing our house, about the debt collectors who kept calling." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "He said we would pay it back before you ever knew it was gone." "How exactly? With what money?" "The real estate deals were supposed to pay off quickly. But then there were complications, delays. Tyler needed more money for permits for contractors. And then I found out he was still gambling. When I threatened to tell you, he said I was already complicit, that I would go to jail too." I shook my head, trying to comprehend how my daughter could have been so easily manipulated. "Amanda, do you understand what that money represents? Do you have any idea?" She nodded miserably. "Your retirement." "No, it is more than that." I leaned forward, making sure she could not look away. "That money represents every extra shift I worked while you were sleeping, every parent-teacher conference I attended with gritty eyes because I had been up until 2 a.m. doing bookkeeping, every vacation I never took, every new coat I did not buy myself so you could have dance lessons and birthday parties." Amanda's sobs intensified, but I continued needing her to understand. "That savings account started with $20 when you were 7 years old. $20 I set aside the day you asked me why we could not go to Disney World like your friend's family. I added to it every week for 30 years, Amanda. Sometimes only $5 that I saved by skipping lunch or walking to work in the rain instead of driving." "Mom, I am so sorry," she whispered. For your entire childhood, I wore secondhand clothes so you could have new ones. I drove the same car for 15 years so I could help with your college tuition. I worked 2 jobs so you would never know how close to the edge we really were after your father died." Her eyes widened. "I did not know, because I did not want you to know. I wanted you to feel secure and loved and provided for. I wanted you to have opportunities. So yes, I managed to save $325,000 over a lifetime of sacrifice. It was supposed to support me through retirement so I would never be a burden to you. And you and Tyler decided to steal it because what I am old and will die someday anyway." The harsh fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Amanda crumpled in her chair. "I do not deserve your forgiveness," she finally said. "I betrayed you in the worst possible way." "Yes, you did." There was no softening this truth. "Are you going to drop the charges?" she asked, her voice tiny. I had been wrestling with this question since yesterday. "I do not know yet. I need to speak with the prosecutor and understand all the options." "Tyler says if you drop the charges, his parents might help pay it back. They have money." "And do his parents know about the gambling, about stealing from me?" She shook her head. "So more lies, more manipulation. Amanda, when does it stop?" Before she could answer, a guard informed us our time was up. As Amanda was led away, she turned back. "Mom, whatever you decide, I want you to know I am truly sorry, and I will find a way to make this right with or without Tyler." It was the first thing she had said that I actually believed. Later that day, I met with my lawyer, Patricia, and the district attorney assigned to the case. They explained my options in clinical legal terms. The evidence against Amanda and Tyler was substantial. The bank footage clearly showed them making withdrawals with my ID, which Tyler had somehow duplicated. The online transfers were traced to their home IP address. "Mrs. Madison, given the amount taken, they are looking at felony charges," the DA explained. "Mr. Reeves has prior offenses related to financial fraud, which elevates the potential penalties. Your daughter has no priors, which works in her favor." "What are the possible sentences?" I asked. "For Mr. Reeves, given the amount taken and his history, he is looking at 3 to 5 years. For your daughter as a first-time offender who appears to have been at least partially coerced, probation is possible with a condition of full restitution." Full restitution. The words hung in the air. We all knew it was unlikely I would ever see most of that money again. "Do I have to decide today whether to press charges?" Patricia patted my hand. "No, Ellen. Take some time. But remember, this is not just about you and Amanda. Elder financial abuse is rampant, precisely because family members know their victims are unlikely to press charges. Whatever you decide, make sure it is what is right for you." I left their office with a heavy heart, but growing resolve. This was indeed about more than just me and Amanda. It was about boundaries, consequences, and whether love meant allowing yourself to be exploited. The weeks that followed were among the hardest of my life. Tyler remained in custody, unable to make bail due to his outstanding debts. Amanda was released on her own recognizance, but forbidden from contacting me directly, a condition I had requested while I sorted through my feelings. I sought help from a therapist who specialized in family trauma. Dr. Wilson listened to my story without judgment. "What you are experiencing is a profound betrayal trauma," she explained. "It is particularly damaging coming from your daughter because the parent-child bond is built on fundamental trust. You are grieving not just the loss of your savings, but the loss of the relationship you thought you had." "Will I ever be able to trust her again?" I asked. "That depends on many factors, including her genuine remorse and changed behavior. But trust can be rebuilt with proper boundaries and accountability." She leaned forward. "Ellen, what do you want the outcome of this situation to be?" The question caught me off guard. What did I want? I had been so focused on understanding what happened that I had not considered what should happen next. "I want my money back." I said automatically, then shook my head. No, that is not all. I want Amanda to understand what she did. Really understand. I want her to take responsibility without blaming Tyler for everything. And I want to know this will never happen again. Dr. Wilson nodded. Those are all reasonable desires. The question is, what path is most likely to get you there? I joined a support group for victims of financial exploitation. To my surprise, the room was filled with people my age with stories painfully similar to mine. Children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews who had stolen retirement funds, taken out credit cards in their relatives' names, even remortgaged homes without consent. My son said I did not need that much money at my age, shared a 70-year-old man named Robert. Said I would never spend it all anyway, took nearly $200,000 before I caught on. My granddaughter stole my identity, said Marion, an elegant woman in her 60s. Opened credit cards, took out loans. My credit is ruined. At my age, I will never recover financially. Their stories strengthened my resolve. This was not just about Amanda and me. This was about saying that exploiting older family members was unacceptable, regardless of the excuses. After 3 weeks of reflection, I made my decision. I contacted the DA and arranged a meeting with Amanda present. I am not dropping the charges against Tyler, I told them both firmly. His actions were calculating and predatory, and he shows no genuine remorse. Amanda nodded, not meeting my eyes. As for you, Amanda, I continued, I am willing to support a plea arrangement with certain conditions. The DA leaned forward, interested. What conditions did you have in mind, Mrs. Madison? First, mandatory financial counseling and gambling addiction family support. Second, complete transparency about all financial matters going forward. Third, a formal restitution plan with legally binding requirements. Those are all standard conditions we would recommend, the DA confirmed. And fourth, I added, divorce proceedings against Tyler. Amanda's head snapped up. Mom, this is not me being vindictive, Amanda. This is me recognizing that he is dangerous to your future. He manipulated you, involved you in criminal activity, and showed no concern for the consequences to either of us. As long as you are married to him, you will never be free of his influence or his debts. The DA cleared his throat. We cannot legally require divorce as a condition of a plea deal, Mrs. Madison. I understand. That part is not for the courts. That is between my daughter and me. If she wants to rebuild a relationship with me, that is my personal condition. Amanda was quiet for a long time. Finally, she asked in a small voice, And if I meet all these conditions, what then? Then we try to rebuild, I said simply. Not immediately, not easily, but we try. 2 days later, Amanda accepted a plea deal that included probation, mandatory counseling, and a formal restitution agreement. She would repay $200 monthly for what would amount to essentially the rest of my life, a token amount that we all knew would never come close to the full amount taken. But it was something, a constant reminder and acknowledgement of what she had done. More importantly, she filed for divorce from Tyler the same week. Tyler pled guilty to multiple felony counts and received a 4-year sentence. During his sentencing, the judge noted that crimes against vulnerable adults were among the most reprehensible in our society, particularly when perpetrated by family members. I took control of my remaining finances, removing Amanda's access to all accounts and setting up additional security measures. The bank, eager to avoid liability, worked with me to establish protections against future fraud. I consulted with an elder law attorney to ensure my assets would be protected as I aged. The road to rebuilding trust with Amanda has been long and is still ongoing. For 6 months, we communicated only through letters and occasional supervised visits. Gradually, as she demonstrated consistent responsibility and genuine remorse, we began to rebuild a different kind of relationship. Not the blind trust of before, but something more mature with clear boundaries and expectations on both sides. Amanda found a job at a marketing firm and moved to a small apartment after selling the house she had shared with Tyler. She attended Gam-Anon meetings regularly to understand the impact of gambling addiction on families and continued her financial counseling beyond the court-mandated period. "I never want to be that person again," she told me during a difficult but healing conversation. "The person who could justify hurting the one who loved her most." As for me, I discovered unexpected strength in adversity. The painful experience led me to volunteer with a senior financial protection advocacy group, speaking to community organizations about preventing elder financial abuse. I found purpose in helping others recognize and avoid the situation I had experienced. I am still working part-time as a tutor to rebuild some of my lost savings. I had to adjust my retirement expectations significantly. The Grand National Parks Tour became weekend trips to state parks. The dream of taking a European river cruise was replaced with local boat excursions. But there is dignity in adapting to circumstances beyond our control. Perhaps the most important lesson from this ordeal was learning that love does not mean allowing yourself to be exploited. True love, including parental love, includes healthy boundaries and mutual respect. By holding Amanda accountable rather than enabling her harmful behavior, I was actually demonstrating a deeper, more mature love than simple forgiveness, without consequences, would have shown. Today, 3 years after that fateful morning at the bank, Amanda and I continue to heal our relationship, one careful step at a time. She makes her monthly restitution payments without fail, each one a small act of atonement. We have dinner together twice a month, and while we may never recapture the easy trust of before, we are building something new that is perhaps more honest. Last week, she showed me brochures for a financial education program she has started at her company, teaching young professionals about responsible money management and the dangers of debt. "I want something good to come from my mistakes," she explained. As for Tyler, he was released early for good behavior, but remains forbidden from contacting either of us due to the restraining order I obtained. Amanda tells me he has already returned to his old patterns with new victims, a sad but unsurprising outcome. I often think about that moment in the bank when our eyes met across the lobby. The shock, the betrayal, the instant recognition of how completely our relationship had changed. It was the most painful moment of my life, but also the beginning of a journey toward greater wisdom and self-respect. Sometimes the hardest moments teach us the most valuable lessons. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to set boundaries and demand respect? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize red flags or consider your own financial security, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming life's most difficult challenges. Remember, protecting yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to stand up for yourself when facing betrayal.